Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday evening presentation here, weekly workshop, 29th of August. So Ryan, I think when you have a question about, this is a great question about how to handle panel interviews, specifically a bunch of people on a Zoom call situation. And I think the first thing to note is who's going to be on the call. So if you, for example, know 7 people are going to be on the call, and you could know what their names are,
I do know. Yeah.
then that'll make you feel very comfortable using their name in the presentation, in the conversation. Oh, thank you, Naomi. Thank you for that conversation. Because one thing to note is that people may or may not have their names on their Zoom profiles in a convenient way. And if it's there, unless you've checked and reviewed each person and their name, you might feel shy. I know I would feel shy and have felt shy on a panel interview if I didn't previously check their names. And so having checked their names and who's going to be there, looked at their LinkedIn profile, that just gives me a sense of confidence and kind of closeness with the people. I feel closer to the people that I'm going to be presenting to. It's easier for me to think of them as a friend.
But how do I prepare better
Right. So the
with their name?
preparation so just on this topic of getting on a group call, for example, just number one, let's keep it real simple. First base, right? Just like in baseball, getting to first base. That would be reviewing the backgrounds of the people, their LinkedIn profile, and knowing their names and having a record of that somewhere. Okay. Now, for extra credit, you could review the news and see if anyone's mentioned in the news or what their social media profiles are saying in case you have a chance to speak with people. With 7 people on a call, however, that can be hard. It's going to be hard to go, one by one and ask them all a question that's personalized. And in this particular case, it's not an interview in the sense that they're going to stop. They may not stop and say, "What questions do you have for us?" Right? It's mainly they who are asking you questions. So be prepared to answer questions from different green boxes on the screen, and not necessarily feel like you need to call out the names of each person. What they may do at the beginning of a conversation like this is each person introduce themselves to you or not. We don't know. Depends on the interview style or the conversation style of those teams. So if it's a formal interview, they may say, let me introduce the team. And
I,
all 7 people get introduced to you. And you say
I
hi
think it's
to each
pretty
one.
formal. Yeah, I think it's pretty formal interview. Yeah.
But in this case, it's not an interview it's not a panel interview in the sense that you're just expected to sit there and then take questions from this audience of people. It's going to be potentially more interactive with you leading the conversation. So this could be true for, Lynn or for Eileen, anybody on the call. If you're asked to give a presentation, it's going to be something a little bit different than you saying hi to everyone and then waiting for someone to step in and start asking questions. It's going to be more like, Ryan, thank you very much for joining us today. We have members of our team here on the call. Looking forward to your presentation. We thought we'd take 10 minutes to do your presentation and then the balance of the time for Q&A. And you say, that sounds great. Thank you very much. Um, be very happy to go ahead and get started if that works for everybody. And then the facilitator would say, yes, Ryan, that sounds great. Please proceed. And then you would just jump in. If they wanted to introduce themselves before that, that's great. But I would not necessarily ask that everybody introduce themselves to you.
All right.
And then after the presentation, people may chime in and say, well, thank you very much for presentation. My name is Naomi. I am the head of energy assets for, such and such. And my question for you would be this, and then you would answer the question. And that would still be that formal situation that you're talking about. And then maybe at the end they ask, hey, do you have any questions for us? And would you
should I
have,
ask?
what's that?
What should I ask if we
I'm
if
not
they
sure. I'm not sure that they would necessarily ask you that question, but if they did have a chance for you to ask questions,
yeah.
and you have all these people on the Zoom call, you wouldn't necessarily want to pick one or two people and just ask them questions, or mention to Naomi to congratulate her that she just had a baby because that's what she said on social media. I think you'd want to keep it a little bit more formal at that point. If they have any questions for you, you can say that well, first of all, one question is, what could be the next step in this process? So I understand that today I'm presenting to you in connection with an interest in such and such role. And I would like to know what might be a next step in this process. That's a question that we could ask. Or I noticed that you asked several questions. I really appreciate that. Thank you for that opportunity. What feedback do you have on the presentation
All right.
in terms of making it better the next time around? Well, what additional feedback do you have for this presentation? Or for a presentation like this, what else would you like to see?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a good question to ask. Yeah.
What else would you like to see? And then they may have something like, nothing, we think this is great, or, well, I thought I would be looking to learn more about this thing. And then they say that thing. And then you take a note of that, and then that invites you to maybe in your thank you emails to the people, that would invite you to add some more comments or context or information.
Got it.
Yeah. And then for everyone that joins the call, you can just kind of have your list of people that are going to join, just confirm if they joined. And then at the end of the presentation, you're free to add all those people on LinkedIn, send them thank you emails individually, all of that. You're welcome to do that. And I would encourage that.
All right. So let me just conclude here. So there will be no specific question to each person. Instead, there will be basically general questions, such as the overall feedback for my presentation, any improvement, and also the possible next step will be like, right?
I'm saying that that's the baseline expectation. I also recommend that you review people's profiles just to know. And if it's just good to know something about each of these people and what their teams are. And in a typical panel interview like this, in a typical panel interview, you may wish it would be wise to have one or two questions for each person. But this is not a panel interview. This is a presentation.
What is the difference between this presentation and a panel interview? I thought they're the same thing.
Well, a panel interview just means that there are multiple people.
Uh-huh.
So in that sense, what you're doing with the presentation and a
Yeah.
panel interview is the same thing. But
Uh-huh.
this is a presentation in the sense that you are going to spend some time sharing your ideas, and the conversation is going to probably revolve around your ideas and questions about the presentation for most of the time. If it was an interview, then there would be a set of behavioral and maybe technical questions,
Okay, I see what you mean.
maybe based on your resume. This is not a Zoom call where you're going to be walking through your resume.
I see. It's
They're not
all about the presentations in
probably. I mean, if
yeah.
they say, well, Ryan, before we jump into the presentation, why don't you introduce yourself? And if you get that question, then that is the tell me about yourself question.
Yeah. I have that in my mind.
Yeah. And so you'll answer that question, and then they'll be kind of, I mean, the whole thing isn't, it's, I mean, in the basic sense of an interview, it is an interview because you're being evaluated. They're evaluating your presentation. It's within the context of uh, a job, right?
Yeah,
So it is it is an interview. It's just, it's not gonna be that kind of you're passively sitting there waiting to receive their behavioral or technical question. It's going to be related to the presentation. Although there might be moments that feel like interview questions, like tell us about yourself. Or how did you, before we jump into the presentation, tell us how did you hear about our firm? Or how did you get interested in our firm?
what
So,
would be the best way to answer this
well,
question?
but those are specific. How, so I need to move on to, we can kind of take turns here and survey if anyone else has a question here on the call. But how did you hear about our firm?
Yeah,
What do you know about our firm? These are all standard interview questions that you might get. And what I would encourage you to do, if you haven't done so yet, is to draft out your response to standard interview questions like that. So how to, if this is Amarin, then you can explain how you came to know Amarin, who you first met and spoke with, what you understand about their company, why you're interested. That set of standard questions: why Amarin? What do you know about our firm? What do you know about this role? You could get those questions. You could.
got it. Yeah. I think they're probably gonna ask questions like this. Yeah,
So it would be wise to have those expected questions covered in addition to the presentation that you're going to make, and then um, to prepare to ask a couple questions toward the end if there's time.
got it.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you,
no problem.
Store.
No problem. I can take a listen to that soon. Let's open up the mic again and see if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask. If not, um, we can just chat. Hey, Eileen, what's up?
Hi, Stuart. Um, so I will finally be having the meeting with Philip tomorrow.
All right.
Um, yeah, so I was wondering if you have any further advice. Um, I know I can discuss with him about my progress so far. Um, but yeah, is there anything else specific that I should mention to him?
Are you meeting him face to face?
Yes, I'm going to the career center tomorrow.
Okay. Before you go to the Career Center, I would encourage you to bring in a cake or a pie or like a box of donuts.
Got it. Okay.
Bring in food. Career Center people like food, and
Yeah.
the ridiculous arbitrage, but meaning like you can get something for nothing basically when you do something a little bit special for Career Center people, they will just like
Mhm.
melt in your hand.
Yes. I mean, yes, I can totally do that. No problem. Yeah, I'll bring donuts tomorrow, probably.
Yeah. So if it's in the morning, like bring a box of donuts, bring it
Hmm.
into his office, and then he'll say, "Oh, thank you so much." And he'll bring it out to the public pantry area for everyone to enjoy
Yeah.
them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So bring that in. And then in terms of your presentation with people, I think it's always good to start with, here's the work that I've done so far. Here's my understanding of the
Hello?
situation. So if you're so if this and so this conversation is about meeting with somebody at the Career Center, talking about the um, about consulting and opportunities, I would bring a list of target companies, your list of target companies. These are the firms that I'm interested in.
Okay. Yeah.
And these are the deadlines that I'm aware of so far. So you have a list of that in the spreadsheet that we're working with. What could you do to format that a little bit? So when you print it off, it looks presentable. That's one thing is this is present to Philip the research that you've done so far. It might be very minimal. Okay, that's fine. But just in that spirit of explaining, here's what I've done so far to prepare. And I would try to come away from that conversation with, his advice on that list of companies, what to do if I wanted to add more companies, what other companies should I add? Are there other alumni that typically come to campus that are from consulting that he would recommend you meet? Who
Okay.
are some alumni that are in consulting that he would recommend you to meet?
Right.
If you're connected with him on LinkedIn, that can also be a good source of possible candidates that you could meet. Are you connected on LinkedIn yet?
Not with Philip, no.
Yeah, and he may or may not connect with you. He may consider his LinkedIn profile like his proprietary list of employers. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
But
Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
yeah, and, simply the shot simply is so first of all, thank him for meeting with you, and then put a little agenda together. Just it could be handwritten, it could be typed out. My preparation so far, my questions for you, essentially. My preparation so far, my questions for you. And then within the preparation so far section, you're talking about a list of companies of interest to you and the deadlines that you're aware of. And are there any other things that I should be aware of in terms of deadlines and companies that I should be trying to talk to? And then you have a conversation about that. And then it might be long, it might be short. And then the next thing to do would be to go in the direction of individuals. Who are individuals that you recommend I meet? And if you wanted to prepare a list of BC alumni in consulting and bring that in, that could be a good thing too. So you could go into your Sales Navigator and you could do the filter for alumni in consulting, and it could be a list of 40, 50 people. And you could extract names, you could you could download, you could save those names to a PDF, I believe, as well, if you needed to, directly from LinkedIn, and bring that up and print that out. Try to use double-sided paper because it might be like one full page per person. In the form. Just be aware of that. It might use a lot of paper, and we want to avoid that if we can. It might just be simpler for you to copy and paste names into a spreadsheet. So this is my preparation so far. Within that, these are the companies of interest. These are the deadlines that I'm aware of. What else should I know about my target companies? Should I be adding companies to this list? Should I be adding deadlines to this list? Talk about that. Then here are my alumni of interest that I would like to meet. Present, and then you have a separate piece of paper. Maybe it's another piece of paper. And then review that. And who would you recommend I meet? Who are alumni? And then I would take in all that advice, and then at the very end, I would recommend you set up another time to meet with him. So, what are some other things that I should be doing here in order to prepare? Are you offering mock case interviews, for example?
Yeah, they do.
When do you recommend I set up one of those?
Okay.
And what are some, just what are some other resources that I should be taking advantage of? And then we'll see what he has to say. Oh, I think I lost Lynn. That's okay. We'll get her back in a second here. Oh, her laptop just died. Okay, fair enough. Now, would anyone else like to chime in or offer a question or comment? Let me take a look. Let me jump into.
Yes, I do.
Yes,
Oh.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I often faced a problem, when I get a chance to introduce myself, because I always say during my introduction, I said I helped the University of Davis saving over $1 million as a part of experiences. And because of this number, almost everybody's gonna ask, how did you achieve that? And I responded with a success story. I wrote it, I prepared before, but there was a person, he actually gave me advice. He said, your accomplished story is not impressive enough. So I thought about it, and I do feel like it is not impressive enough. So yeah, so I'm thinking how to better prepare for this question. Yeah.
Well, as we spoke throughout the summer, we addressed this as an issue with the job hunt at the moment, is that is kind of like your only accomplishment.
Oh, can you say again?
So as far as I know, that's like your one accomplishment. I think you have like one accomplishment story. In the experiences I've had working on your accomplishment stories, you are always drawing from that UC Davis experience.
Yeah.
Trying to draw from different angles. And
Yeah.
so what I would recommend is working on the reason why you might have wanted to work with the Amazon individual is to start generating another story to tell.
Oh, speaking of the Amazon guy, I actually I have a very quick update for that. He kept emailing me about any potential client, and I did email him back yesterday. I said, I'm going to talk with the vice chancellor of sustainability here at WashU, and I will bring up this opportunity. And I also ask that Amazon guy, can I change my LinkedIn profile and add your company to my own profile? And he said yes. So and I would, because I'm gonna meet with this vice chancellor in the middle of September, and I'm probably gonna bring this up. And I said I will give you some update after I talk with that vice chancellor. So that's the update for this Amazon guy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I see you're back, Eileen. Great. Fantastic. Got your power, got your charger. Good. Yeah. So the issue with that dollar figure is that may seem, and depends. I mean, you've heard this feedback from one person that your story isn't impressive enough. I mean, that's just the opinion of one person. I haven't heard you tell me that everyone is telling you that. However, what you might do is you might turn that figure into a percentage. So when you talk about your accomplishments, you might, that $1 million, maybe that's 5% of their budget, for example. And so you say something to the effect of, I helped UC Davis. It's not University of Davis, it's University of California or UC Davis. I helped UC Davis reduce their annual energy expenses by 5% during the 3-month period when I was working for them as an intern, primarily by improving the energy usage monitoring. So I think that's pretty significant. It sounds, we don't know exactly how big UC Davis's energy budget is, but if you give them like a 5% number or some sort of percentage, that might have a benefit, because in the world of energy, $1 million in the world of any business, $1 million is tiny. $1 million is very tiny. And so that is why that person might have felt like your impact wasn't significant, is because you're talking about a very tiny number.
Can
So
I mention both the percentage and the 1 million?
I'm saying not.
No, okay.
Okay.
All right.
The express
All
point that I'm making here is to not reveal the dollar figure.
So basically, I just say I helped the university saved 20% of their energy budget.
Or reduce their, or conserve conserve their energy budget by 20%, or whatever that number is.
All right, got it.
And then that might be seen as a better approach, because the $1 million savings that you would garner for any company would be considered just very small.
Yeah. All right. I see.
I think that's kind of the origin for him saying that accomplishment wasn't strong. And in terms of other accomplishments, I would encourage you to develop more projects. I mean, over the summer, right? What opportunities did you have to work on more projects? That was kind of I thought might be an opportunity, and it's still an opportunity. So what projects can you be working on that are exactly the type of work you want to do in the future? Do a project. Do your own project.
All
And
right.
then we'll give you something else to talk about.
All right.
Let me
Got
jump over to Ali. So, Ali, to continue our conversation, I would say come prepared with just the work that you've done, the list of people, companies, and then a third category is what's the best way to use the resources of the Career Center. What are the upcoming events that I should know about? And then who are some of the alumni that are extremely helpful to people in consulting? And just get a survey of that, because and don't worry about this being your last conversation with Philip. Think of this as the beginning of a relationship. And so make a point toward the end of your conversation with Philip to ask him if it would be okay to keep him updated in about a month with your progress. And then he'll also sense, oh, this conversation is continuing. This relationship will continue from here. This is something that I can invest in. This person, I can invest in this person. So what you'll find in the Career Center is people have all these resources and connections, and they can't offer them equally to everybody. They have to kind of figure out, like if they have a connection with a particular firm, which calls up Philip and say, Philip says, someone says to Philip, I need an intern for next summer. He just needs one intern. And the person in the company says, oh, and by the way, I don't want you to announce this to the entire school, so I have to review 100 resumes. I just want you to recommend 2 or 3 people. And the career coach is not going to say, well, that's against my policy. I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to do this if you let me send out the announcement to the entire class. Would he do that? Would he refuse? What do you guys think? Eileen, what would you think?
Oh, sorry, I'm muted. I thought I'm not muted. I said I think he'll just recommend who he likes, enjoy working with.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And that's what I see happening. So our goal here in this conversation is it's not a one-time meeting. Bye, I'm off on my own now. I look forward to staying in touch with you and updating you in the near future. Could we plan to schedule another time sometime in end of September, early October. And he'll say yes. And so try to develop that relationship as well. So that's what I would come away with. Try to come away with a reviewed list of companies, a reviewed list of deadlines, a reviewed list of alumni, other people he would recommend you talk to, particularly around among alumni, and then how best to use the resources on campus. Get a mock interview, get a mock case interview set up as soon as you can, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
That's great. Good question. How was your travel to Boston? Was it terrible? Okay.
I think the trip was like 30 hours in total. So it was quite long, but usually it takes me a short time to adjust to the time difference. I
Yeah.
would say I'm mostly adjusted, but I did fall asleep for around 10 minutes in every class today, so that's not great. Fortunately, it's only syllabus day, so
Right. It's not too right.
right.
Exactly. I would just in terms of my sense of where to go next is it would be good for us to get the emails or the LinkedIn messages starting to go and the revamp of the LinkedIn profile, the new photo, a new professional headshot should probably be on your list for Philip tomorrow as well as
Right.
where can I get that headshot done?
Okay. Yeah.
And
Also, I only have 30 minutes with Philip tomorrow.
okay, so cover it all in 30 minutes and bring an agenda, print off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the things I'd like to cover and the time allotment for each.
Okay. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Most welcome. Lynn, do you want to take a look at your resume one more time here?
Yes.
Would that be a good use of time here? I think, so for example, where is a job description? I mean, again, this all comes down to a job description in particular. So could you please send me a link to a job description that would be appropriate that you want to apply to?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I just sent you one.
Okay. Take a look. Okay. So for example, so here, the credit risk analysis, right? This would be something that would want to probably appear here on, if you're applying to this role, skills and tools, right? Credit risk analysis would probably show up as something that you would want to include here. And I'm not sure if you want to, but so you don't have a strong background in credit risk analysis. It's not, just to my knowledge, that's not what you've been focusing on. But you might include all of this here, include credit risk analysis here, and then plan to include, reference whatever it is that they say you need to bring or should bring. See, where did, there, it's the LinkedIn, sorry. So I'm thinking about the skills. So just so you don't get lost, I'm thinking about where do we customize this here, these two sections? So results-oriented MSc graduate, focused on growing P&L, focused on through credit risk management. Support for better operations. So that's why I'm saying these two sections would be customized. So you're not going to see any of this content in the job description. DCF, M&A, LBO, that's nothing.
No.
That's not going to be what they're looking for. So it wouldn't be wise of us to put that at the top. So financial markets and portfolio risk management. So you could, what I'm thinking here is instead of doing a straight skills and tools section, you could simply have a set of qualities that you are strong in. So we could call this credit risk. And now, and you put this in here knowing that you don't know it yet, but you could become familiar with it if you were invited to interview. Credit risk analysis. And then what's another kind of key term that they're looking for here under their qualifications? Portfolio risk management. Again, you don't know what that is necessarily at this time, but you could come to be familiar with that if you were invited to interview. Correct? Do you agree?
Sorry, what's that?
Do you agree that you could Google, if you needed to, you could Google some of these terms and become familiar with them?
Yes.
Yeah, right, simple. Or ask ChatGPT. I'm interviewing for such and such role. Here's the job description. What are some things that I should learn before, if I'm interviewed? Client and business focus. Yeah, so these qualifications here could come across as qualities. We sometimes use a qualities section. And again, you have 6 different examples of this because previously I built 6 different resumes customized to 6 different job descriptions for you when you were first applying to Goldman. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So you have a library of examples of customization where you could basically copy and paste the approach. It's not the exact words, but it's kind of like the same approach. So it's kind of going to be probably looking a lot like what we have here. Let's see here, teamwork, communication skills. So we have teamwork, communication skills. And then what else? Again, we're just trying to feed into the resume what they are looking for. Judgment, problem solver. Yeah. So this is what I'm thinking, Lynn, is I'm thinking you take a stab, make an attempt to customize the resume to the role of interest as follows. And We can come in here and make this centered as follows. And again, that's going to tailor those two sections to the role. And then we're going to come in here, let's see, and oh, I would be concerned a little bit, Lynn, is that you're working in 10-point font here on the resume. That's very small.
Okay.
One of our guidances here that I'd like everyone to follow is to have at least 11-point font in the resume. That's my suggestion, just because it's hard. But I mean, if you're, you know, I don't, if we could just get this done in 10-point font and sent, I'm okay with that. But just recognize that 10-point font is small. And it may have been a long, long time. Have you recently printed out a resume, a physical copy of your resume to read it?
No, but I have always been using 10 font for my past resumes.
Oh, well, the standard is always 11. And I've always edited your resumes and changed it to 11-point font whenever I've touched a resume of yours. So if you change it back to 10-point font, okay, but anything I've ever touched for you and sent to you has always been either 12 or 11. And I recommend you stick with that. So again, because it's so hard to read something that's 10-point font, if it's printed out. So you
Oh, it's actually 11.
Okay.
It was after I uploaded it to the Google Drive.
Okay, cool.
The format was changed.
I'm seeing, yeah, I'm seeing things in 10-point font. So I go back and make sure that that's consistent. And then personally, I recommend you work in Word if possible. But if you're okay with Google, I can make that work. But if it's playing with the fonts, you just want to be careful about that, moving things back and forth. And then your experience would be, you know, could we find a bullet point? Could we find a metric for this bullet point? Right now, it's just text, facilitated client onboarding for, and then is there any improvement that client onboarding has experienced in the time that you've been there? Has there been?
Yes,
Yes?
their business intelligence team, they definitely get things automated and saved time, but I didn't do anything related to it.
Well, yes, you did, because you're on the team. So facilitated, you know, 30% improvement.
Oh, I
in-
cannot find a specific number about it again for like how much percentage is improved. I also cannot find a, percentage about it.
Well, sometimes you have to make an estimate and have a reason for your estimate. So have you noticed any improvement in the business?
No, not currently. No.
Okay. So so again, you're on the inside of the business and I'm on the outside. So I don't see as much as you do, although I can think of questions to ask. So what has improved, if anything, for this team? Is there any way to know? Whether it's, you know, you've got some PowerPoints, I mean, has anything, you know, or introduced, facilitated, I mean, if you just leave it like this, that's fine. It can work, but what can we do to include a metric here? Because right now it's facilitated client onboarding for, you know, by onboarding, by managing account setup for futures, DCS, and GCS clients. I mean, this is, I mean, is there any way that we could, do you have any friends inside the company that you trust that you could ask advice for on this?
For what?
For this bullet point?
I asked people on my team, but they don't know.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, you have the data. I mean, how many clients have you onboarded in the past time you've been there?
We can probably see the previous, the email sent by the MD for Q1 and Q2 this year.
Yeah. I think there's probably some data in there that you could add to this resume.
That
No.
I sent to you via the Facebook chat. There are, for example, there are a total number about how many address changes have been made and how many name changes, how many status changes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then in Q1 and Q2, was there an increase or a decrease?
It's not always an increase, because sometimes it just depends on the requests, how many requests we have. It's not the more the better.
I understand. Yeah. So any improvements in efficiencies that you can, I mean, if you think that the BI people are improving processes and that's what's driving it, I would try to talk to the BI people and then try to get into that team if possible, because that's more directly related to your work or your studies. Mhm.
Yeah, they used Ultrix Canvas to improve the process, but I didn't really know how to use Ultrix at all. I have never learned Ultrix myself.
Okay, well, that could change very easily. I mean, I took an introduction to Alteryx class a couple weeks ago on LinkedIn. It was like 30 minutes long. Not as deep as you need to go, probably, but that's learning Alteryx and the Canvas is not a limiting factor for you.
Yeah, and I actually don't want to write down yet, because for CW contractors at GS, they don't really have access to Ultrix. So if I apply an internal job at GS, then people interview me, they would easily know that's not done by me, because contingent workers at GS, they won't have access to Ultrix.
Well, Alteryx can certainly be one of your skills, whether or not you work at GS or not.
Yeah, yeah.
And you should be definitely putting Alteryx on your resume if you're applying to such roles.
Yeah, I'm planning to learn it because I just registered the data school at Goldman Sachs, and
Yeah.
that starts this Thursday. Yeah.
Exciting. Awesome. So I would say for this resume, I would spell out these terms clearly. What does that mean? If it's derivative something, what is, for futures derivatives, and the size of that business may be something that you can learn through the investor relations. Have you ever visited the investor relations page of
Yeah.
Goldman Sachs?
Yes, I have. I'm reading their 10Q or other financial statements, but I didn't really find one about futures or derivatives.
Yeah, it may not be easy to come across. Um, so this is our most recent report. And this is a presentation, or is it it's a video? Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot here.
Yeah. And also for prime broker business, I also cannot find one. I don't know why I cannot find one.
Mhm.
Prime broker business. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a presentation. You might take a look at this and see if there is anything that you can take from this.
What's that?
Well, you can take a look at it now. This is the investor presentation that comes with, I'll send you the link right here and you can use it for your reference. And then I need to go ahead and get off the call because we're over by about 20 minutes here.
Okay.
So I wish everyone a good rest of your evening. Lynn, why don't you take a look at the links I just sent you and see if there's something that you can do with this resume to quantify, and maybe you can't, and that's okay. But I think the opportunity here is to try to quantify things so that we can have something quantitative to share. I think it's great what you've done here so far. Let's see here. Generated cost savings, right? And then I don't know if we need to have it for Project Earth, right? It's just through meticulous data cleanup, optimizing physical mail amounts, and transitioning clients to electronic delivery. Project Earth is not relevant. You saved it, you saved these costs for the firm that you're serving. And then, yeah, can we find something? Again, these are just ideas when I look at a resume like this and I think, hey, what could something be done? I'm thinking quantification. And then I think, well, where could quantification be done? And these are the things that
Hey Stuart, do you think futures and derivative business are part of FICC?
yes, probably.
So yeah, that's why I can find a number for FICC, but I cannot. They probably just don't have a specific number for futures or derivatives. That's why my manager also don't know.
All right, I think the rest of this resume, we've looked at these bullet points several times before, and I think we're okay with all those. Those are just what they are. Education and interests can be at the bottom. I think that's fine. I mean, you have a activity here from 2019. I don't know how relevant that is. It's 3 or 4 years old now. If you had space issues, you might want to remove that. Cool. And if you like classical Chinese ink painting, you might see if there is any of that offered in where you live as a fun activity that you might do in Salt Lake City.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. It was really great to talk with everyone tonight, Ryan. I'll take a look at your presentation. And Lynn, send me, after you review the link I just sent you, the Investor Day presentation, have a look, see if you can find anything for to quantify on your resume. And Eileen, good luck on your meeting tomorrow, and let me know how it goes, okay?
Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good
Bye.
night.